Men, what's the biggest green flag in a woman? Story 1. So, a big one is don't take out your bad day on somebody who's just trying to make it better. A small story. So, I hate my job and it's hectic. Hours are long and overtime is mandatory. This particular Sunday, I was alone and had to do all the work myself. As soon as I got home, my wife asked me if I could cook dinner because she was tired. Keep in mind, I came home to a spotless house and woke up that very morning at 4 a.m. just to bring me coffee. Inside, I was furious and anxiety-ridden. I wanted to be snappy and be babied, but I realized why I was feeling angry, and it had nothing to do with her. So I instead just spoke with her about my day. She let me vent. We went and did something fun together and ate out. Both our days were made better together. It's taboo to speak this, but oftentimes people want an easy target to take their anger out on. Somebody safe who will take it. This is an emotion that's important to realize, and once you see it, you must control it. The end result of treating your partner like a punching bag is losing that emotional support. Eventually, they will actively avoid you, so your day is now not only terrible, but now nobody will care. Everybody wants a queen until it's time to act like a king. Everybody wants a queen until it's time to act like a king? Didn't expect a philosophy lesson today. This needs to be stuck somewhere. I hope I can find a boyfriend who is able to have the kind of relationship with me that you have with your wife. Emotional intelligence, but also kindness and mutual respect. You've got something special there. I'm not perfect. I just learned from a previous marriage. I will admit I made a lot of mistakes. I said things that were reactionary and mean. I let instigations create retaliations. I married my daughter and just hoped it would work out. Nothing for the right reasons. Eventually, I learned that I would not be the best father I could be if I was miserable. We both agreed to get a mutual divorce and split custody. End of the day, in my opinion, any issues I had with her are in the past. That's still my daughter's mother, and she loves her. I took this time to sit and think because I wanted my next marriage to be happy. This life is too short to be miserable. I will never be a millionaire, etc., but I do have the power to make my life a happy one. Before I moved on, I knew I needed to heal. So I took that time to heal, work out, reflect, spend time with my daughter, and it just happened so randomly. I met her when she was a nanny. Instant auras just clicked, and it felt incredible. This is going to sound crazy, but ever since the first date, she lived with me every single day. Drive 45 minutes every day to be with me and wake up earlier to get to work. Our cultures are opposite. She's Colombian and I'm Texan. So I just found her fascinating, and I was welcomed by her family and taught a whole new world. Every day was something new. She's always interesting, and I love to learn from her and each other. She taught herself English, grew up in the mountains, dirt floors and concrete furniture, still went to college all by herself. She's accomplished so much even before we met. We have a strong mutual respect and admiration. She's always been and always will be my greatest investment. Everything she touches becomes successful. I think it's crucial to be able to trust the mind of your partner. I know she's brilliant. If we do fail, we just try to learn from it. Sorry, I'm ranting, but yeah, I'm not perfect. I've just made a lot of mistakes. I really agree with the last part. You don't have to be perfect, just learn from the mistakes you've made. I just kind of always said that myself. But there was one part there that was kind of weird. It sounded like he said he married his daughter or something like that. I don't think that's what they wanted to say. I think it was just a little glitch in how the text was translated. Moving on. Story 2. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm rambling on or if the reply is too long. There's a TLDR at the end. Sometimes the poor communication, the hurdles, and the marathon do end, and you'll be happy you didn't throw in the towel and move on. It takes strength, courage, and commitment sometimes to make a relationship work. The question has to be, is this person worth the effort? For you, it sounds like a resounding yes after each reply someone has left you. My wife and I had great communication when we were dating. Once we got married, it went downhill pretty fast. She just wouldn't talk about anything bothering her until it would explode into huge arguments. I'm sure I was part of the problem, maybe not presenting myself in a way that she felt secure enough to talk with me about problems or even happy things. She was also terrified I would abandon her, so it caused her to hold a lot of things back. Fear will do crazy things to people. Our marriage was really on the rocks and could have come to an end sooner than later. We both started to individually decide to see a psychiatrist and therapist. We thought of doing couples therapy. However, we wanted to work on ourselves first, because before we could heal our relationship, we needed to address our own issues and feelings. Rome wasn't built in a day, and a healthy relationship is the same. It takes time and commitment. Well, even though we both made amazing progress on ourselves over a pretty long period of time, we both figured something still needed to drastically change to stay together. We didn't want to reach that point where we gave up on our marriage because we truly do love one another deeply. I know what I'm about to write isn't something that everyone would jump at trying, and I'm not suggesting you try it even. I'm just writing about what helped me in my situation. That there is hope, and there are plenty of times things and people can and do change, and life becomes so much better. I never tried to change her. She never tried to change me. We each decided on our own that we needed to make changes to ourselves if we wanted things to work. You can't forcibly change someone, and I would never want to try and change someone I love. So finally, after my long-winded reply, now comes the metamorphosis of our relationship. One day, I came up with the idea that we could try some magic mushrooms together. I'm 40 now, but I tried them back when I was 18 or 19 once or twice. I knew someone to buy them from, and I know of the benefits to the human mind. She's never been into smoking weed even, but she figured she would give it a try. What do we have to lose at this point? Over 6 months, we took them 3 to 4 times. Immediately, the first night we tripped together, things started to get so much better. It's like we bonded in the intimate and spiritual matter. It was also the best spicy time either of us ever had in our lives. Somehow it brought us so much closer together, and our communication improved drastically. We talk about everything now, and neither of us is fearing the other's reaction to what we have to say, so we aren't holding things back. We have more love, respect, and a greater understanding of each other's needs now than we've ever had for anyone before this. Life just feels so good now. It's really an amazing difference from the last 5.5 years before this. Too long didn't read? Magic mushrooms probably saved our marriage. I'd love to try that with her sometime. My girlfriend, not your wife, obviously. I'm glad it went that way for you. That's a hell of a way to fix a marriage, but also seems like a pretty good one considering it helped both of you on a deeper level personally as well as together. Unfortunately, my girlfriend doesn't drink, smoke, or do any illicit substances of any kind, and no amount of convincing or reasoning will work, I'm sure. But I'll always remember this as the day I learned magic mushrooms can save marriages. To be honest, there was a lot of groundwork laid before the magic mushrooms entered the picture. They put a lot of work into themselves. And I don't know what led to the decision, but I don't think just taking some illicit substance or getting drunk would save a marriage, then you would not have a lot of the domestic violence calls you would see today. I think this is very much an outlier. Story 3. This. Absolutely this. actually talking about what you and what she wants in communication, rather than mind games, manipulation, gaslighting, coercing, or using things as punishment. When she doesn't even listen to your reasons or at least make an attempt to understand your side of anything, and instead she takes it personally like you killed her cat or something, believing in her own opinions and feelings instead of at least trying to see both sides of the relationship. Also, when she doesn't let go of anything ever, if you get into an argument and all you're trying to do is just get her to at least understand your side of something, and she brings up past situations or has a predetermined view of the situation simply because it's you that she's talking to, holding a grudge for no reason. I get into arguments all the time with my girlfriend, and she constantly and conveniently ignores my points on things or how I feel about it, chalking it up to her wanting to win or making me lose. I always say it's not about winning or losing, or it's not about wrong or right, and she doesn't understand it. Sometimes we just want to be understood. When my goal is to simply get her to understand my side of things, while her parameters for winning an argument is to prove me wrong based on what she believes or thinks is right, then there's discourse. It's exhausting when the person you like or love doesn't at least make an effort to change or accept you and instead blames you, even if she doesn't outright say it. Is communication and acceptance so hard? Is it really that hard to just accept that people have different views instead of denying everything and deciding what's right and ignoring how the other person feels? I've dated girls like that. It's just going to get worse, man. I hope not. I've known her for over 13 years, and we've been dating for about 2 to 3, depending on how you look at it. I'm not saying I haven't made my own mistakes, been subjected to my own fallacies and ego and pride. It takes a long time to change the core of a person, so trying to get past my own issues is difficult enough. I often say to her, I feel like I'm in a running race, except every time I screw up, according to whatever she considers wrong, I start the race over and another hurdle is added to the track, with the finish line moving another 10 meters further away. Every hurdle hit just brings up the past or completely irrelevant issues that might be relevant to her, but I and my friends don't see how, and I have to do my best to get back to square one while remembering to avoid that new particular hurdle. Sorry, venting. My apologies. Think for a moment what it would probably be like if you were divorced from her and you were sharing custody of your kids. How cooperative do you think she would be? Dude, you're on the edge of a cliff, about to go over the edge, and you're thinking, maybe I'll be the one that doesn't get unalived. I don't know. We were talking about green flags, and I'm really not seeing any in this situation. It just sounds like this person is venting about their relationship, and they need to. It's just in a pretty dire situation. I'm sorry they're going through that. Story 4. It took me a couple of marriages to find my bride. First had mental issues. The other, was undiagnosed bipolar and, let's say, took matters into her own hands. One thing my wife and I both do is brag about each other to other people. One thing I can say is my bride is, and I met a lot of people, is the most intelligent person I've met. She sees things differently. By that, I mean that I see things at the surface for the most part. She sees the cause of the situation. Another thing I absolutely adore about her is she teaches me something new every day. Maybe it's a word or a historical fact or the conclusion of a scientific study that was done. She works for the government, states and Fed. She was a statistics professor before I met her and has written a couple statistical books. The special thing when I knew she was the one for me was on our first date. Backstory. I had a project that was sold, signed, and staffed, and it was all canceled on me. Let's just say it was a very expensive day. I texted her this meme of a T-Rex chasing a little boy who was screaming. Over the T-Rex, it said Monday, and over the kid, it read me. So on our first date, She brought me this plastic sword from Party City and wrote on it Tyrannosaurus interfectorum, which means Tyrannosaurus unaliver. At the time, I was dating, heavily, 4 to 6 dates per week kind of thing. Most gals that I took on dates, to me, either seemed shallow or a pain in the butt. Fake eyelashes, long nails, too much makeup is all a dripping blood red flag to me. And most wanted to talk about themselves and their friends. Another red flag. She wasn't any of that. When we met for the first time, I mentioned that the new Spider-Man movie was good. She responded with, "Oh yeah, it was. But if you read Spider-Man insert some number here through insert some number here, you'll see how." I was just in her eyes at that point. We moved in together and we've been engaged for a couple months. We're in each other's thoughts and emotions. I'm very empathetic and she picks up on very subtle nuances. She knows every single mode or mood I'm in and she understands it all. And I do for her as well. I couldn't have found a more perfect fit. She and I were both previously married and are in no mood for drama. We literally have not had one fight in our entire marriage. Plus, she's ginger, beautiful, and athletic. I tell you, men, she hits all of my buttons.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 5. Fighting and/or approaching conflict in a healthy manner. During one of my early fights with my girlfriend, now wife of 15 years, I was surprised that even though she was still mad, she clearly said, "I'm upset when you did X," because of something in her past. "I know that past events are not your fault, but I'm still feeling that we should talk later after I've processed a bit." Way different from my past relationships. No silent treatment. No hiding emotions and exploding later. Firm feelings while taking accountability. Honest apologies. It's great. We still have conflicts and even yell from time to time, but they're productive in the end. Edit. Thanks for the gold. Did she have a really good therapist? Is she a therapist? Was she taught this growing up or did she somehow learn this on her own? She had a good therapist and she is now. In fact, a marriage and family therapist. Yeah, reading it, I was like, this sounds like how therapists talk. Would you please ask her how she learned to do that and how to find a good therapist? Hours of therapy, then getting a master's in it. Take work. Finding a therapist can be tricky. Psychology today is a good start. You'll likely have to go out of network, but find someone that you can connect to and really open up to. Might take a few therapists. For me personally, I just try to always reason within myself first before I confront my partner about things. So if we're in an argument, I'll explain that I need some time to think things through, that I still love them, and as soon as my head is in the right space, I'll talk to them about it, and vice versa. I don't think it's difficult. If there's no shouting involved and you aren't trying to win the argument, but rather sort it out and allow both sides to be heard, you'll come to a mutual agreement eventually. I've got BPD, so my mind does get a bit silly, but I try my best to remember that, hey, I'm definitely not all right in the head at the moment, so I should pause, take a breath, and step back and think things through. Sometimes I'll even think out loud so my partner hears what I'm stressing about. All in all, don't ever go to bed angry, and if there's an issue, address it as soon as possible. Communication is key. Edit. And do never, ever use your partner's trauma against them in an argument. Ever. Story 6. Cleanliness. How a person keeps themselves and their home reflects their sense of value and purpose in life. In my opinion, it tells me your priorities, your ability to handle responsibility, your work ethic, the value you place on the things you work for and others work for, etc. Back in college, I briefly dated this young lady who was lovely in all respects, except she had no sense of cleanliness. Total slob. I went to her apartment once. Her bedroom was covered in dirty laundry so thick she literally arranged it to make walking paths. There were empty cups, food containers, and bags of more clothes everywhere. Fruit flies were whizzing by, and she had time to clean up. She invited me a week beforehand. While we were still dating, the first time I went to my wife's apartment was impromptu. We had to go back to her place because she didn't have a jacket and she just left school. I walked in. It smelled great, like a cinnamon candle. No clothes were thrown about, clean surfaces, no garbage anywhere. Beautiful. I strongly suspect this woman was going to be my wife based on the first few dates we went on. But going up to her place for a jacket, I knew she viewed herself as having value and purpose. Married 22 years, baby. I am kind of in the middle of this. There are times I'll let a few clothes slip on the floor, but normally I have a place for everything, and it usually goes in that place immediately, especially clothes. And I might take a little longer to run a vacuum across the floor if I'm working a lot, but I'll also take the time to clean up, especially the bathroom. The bathroom is important to keep clean. Definitely. Definitely. Story 7. Us versus the problem mentality. AKA, instead of blaming you or herself for issues that inevitably will arise, she communicates with you in a way that focuses on what the issue is and how you can work together to solve it. Yep, this is huge. To me, this is also the key difference between a good work environment versus a bad one. Does your supervisor blame you for something when things go wrong? Or do they instead figure out how to fix the problem and prevent it from happening again? I guess my male supervisor is wife material. Story 8. Someone who actually is okay with their man being emotionally honest and open. A lot of women say they want that, but what they really want is a guy who'll call things cute and shed a single manly tear at Titanic, but will say, well, that's embarrassing, if he actually cries over childhood trauma or something. If you're mature and healthy enough to realize emotional honesty comes with awkward and difficult things that you probably don't want to deal with, but will deal with anyway, then that's a massive green flag. Don't understand why society is so against men revealing their emotions. I don't know why, but I find it so sweet if a man chooses to be vulnerable in front of me. It's like they're not afraid of what people think, and that's as masculine as you can get. Same. And yet, I know a lot of nice, normal women with high emotional intelligence who often act either ticked off or condescending when men in their lives show true vulnerability. Story 9. A feedback loop, ideally involving outside perspectives. Let's say the two of you have a fight. A positive feedback loop looks like she describes the situation to a trusted friend or advisor and asks for advice. She receives advice and considers it. She acknowledges her role in the conflict, apologizes if necessary, and comes up with ways in which she wants to learn and grow from the situation. She follows up with her friends and advisors on her personal growth. A negative feedback loop looks like she gives a biased version of the events to her friends. Her friends always take her side and reinforce her negative feelings. This echo chamber leads to no growth, no learning, and the same problems happening again. If both of you are doing the positive loop, each fight becomes an opportunity to learn. You'll never be perfect, but you will get to a really good place really quickly. It's possible to have a positive loop without an external perspective, just by being good at self-evaluation. But there are some tough or recurring problems where you will sometimes need to seek outside help. That's not a weakness. Story 10. They'll do silly things with you just because you like them and truly engage in the activity. I knew I was going to marry my husband the night we got back from a date, maybe a month or two into our relationship, and there was a raccoon in the dumpster behind my apartment. I made him sit in the car with me and watch the raccoons because I think they're super cute. And instead of rolling his eyes or making fun of me, he settled back in his seat, got comfortable, and had a whole conversation with me about raccoons. We both came up with names for the one in the dumpster, and his name was the best one, Ranger Rick. I went inside and thought to myself, yep, any guy who will go along with my crazy and hang out for an hour in my car to watch a dumpster diving raccoon is a keeper. We've been married 5 years, and I have no regrets. Edit to add, obviously I married a man, but the same green flags apply to women, non-binary persons. Story 11. Asking me if I want to be a little spoon. Yes, I want to be a little spoon. Little spoon rocks. P.S. She asked me this on our first night together. I knew right there she was special. My one friend calls it being the jetpack instead of the big spoon because she knows she's tiny. Ooh, I've always heard of a backpack for this, but a jetpack sounds way more cool. I'm totally using this from now on.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.